What's up guys, LukeTheWelder here, and today we're going to be fixing this gate. It must have came out of nowhere and got hit by an idiot in a truck. Here we can see where the pinch brackets attach the gate arm to the gate itself. Looks as though we're missing a couple of decorative rings as well, which I'm going to have to order because I don't have any with me. The weakest point is always the first thing to fail when a gate gets hit, which in this case is where the bottom of the pickets are welded to the outer frame. Looks like the pinch brackets held on tight. So we're going to start unloading our gear and we're going to get right to work. My brother Justin and I make a really good team when it comes to doing mobile jobs. Can't forget the welding hood. Justin knows exactly what to do, so he's already ahead of the game by taking off the pinch brackets and losing all the hardware. We're going to start off by removing this picket, this picket, this picket, and this picket. But first we got to get these out of the way. On the underside of the C-channel at the top of the gate, you're going to notice some small tacks that are holding these pickets into position. What the? Well, guess I'm gonna have to add an additional ring to the job. No problem though, that's an easy fix. All right, let's unpack the TIG welding machine. Now we're gonna get some argon flowing. And then of course we gotta get power, so we're gonna fire up the generator. Next, we power on the water cooler. And lastly, let's fire up the TIG welding machine. All right, now that we got all the equipment running, we're gonna start unraveling our welding torch. Nice and gentle so that we don't break our ceramic cup. Now we're gonna unravel our ground cable. This is my favorite style of ground clamp, by the way. It gets a nice good grip on anything I put it on. Aluminum filler rod on deck. All right, we're gonna start cutting this first picket just above the bottom C-channel. And I know some of you are probably freaking out right now because there's no guard on my angle grinder, but not to worry. We are trained professionals, and if you guys are doing any of this kind of work, you guys should absolutely be using a guard. All right, awesome. We got the bottom section of the pickets all done, and now we can move up to cutting off the rings. After cutting off all the rings, we are going to move up to the top of the gate and start cutting off the finials. Shake it more than twice, you're playing with it. Cutting the finial off the top allows us to actually pull the picket downward, because that weld that's inside the C-channel will not allow us to pull the picket out the top. It's also difficult to get tools up inside the C-channel to cut the weld to allow us to get the picket out the top. So we figured out that this is actually the most efficient way to do it. We're gonna have to grind down the previously existing welds on the bottom of the frame, as well as on the inside of the bottom C-channel and the top C-channel. We are also removing the old paint to prep for future welding. But first we've got to remove the tubes from the finials. And for this part we'll need a vise. Each finial is only welded on two sides of the tubing. So I start by cutting the first side, and then I move on to the second side. Then I'm going to rock the tubing back and forth using my vice grip pliers to break the weld further and be able to pull the tubing out of the finial. Then I'm going to use my angle grinder with a sanding pad. That way I can reuse the finial and re-weld it onto the new picket. I then have to repeat this entire process for the remaining 3 finials. All right, they're all cleaned up and ready to weld. All right, I'm gonna continue using my angle grinder, and I'm gonna go back over to the frame of the gate and remove these welds that were on the bottom. I'm making sure that I'm removing enough paint to be able to weld all the way around the new pickets. There are many different types of discs that you can use on angle grinders to grind down welds and remove paint. But this combi click system from Ferd makes it really easy to remove the paint without digging into the material too much. But then I'm gonna switch over to the illuminator. If you want to grind down aluminum really fast, this is the wheel to use. This bad boy doesn't take no for an answer. There really isn't very much room to grind inside the C-channel, so I turn the grinder sideways and I'm able to get up in there nice and cleanly. I am personally not a fan of using the handle that comes with the angle grinder. I usually like to just put 2 hands on the grinder and hold it nice and tight in case there's any kickback. It doesn't hit me in the face. There are several kinds of tools on the market that can do exactly this, but this is the best way that I've found to do it using what I have on my truck. From this angle, you can see that I'm grinding all the tack welds down one at a time. I'm grinding through all of the powder coat, getting down to the raw aluminum, and making sure that I leave enough space to get some good welds so that I don't contaminate on more powder coat once I put the new pickets on. And we can't forget to grind where the rings were previously welded to the existing pickets that are still there. Awesome, now it's time to bust out the miter saw so we can cut some new pickets. I do a lot of gate repairs, so this picket material is actually very common and I carry a lot of it on my truck all the time. In this case, we're going to be pulling off 3/4 inch square tubing aluminum. These particular pickets have sharp corners and are 1/8 of an inch thick. After getting my measurements, I'm going to start by cutting the very first picket. In fabrication, a good general rule of thumb is to cut your pieces in order from longest to shortest. The reason for this is because it minimizes the amount of wasted material, otherwise known as drop, which you could potentially use on another job, maximizing your profits. Already looking brand new again. Let's finish the other pickets.
77 and 5/8. Three and an eighth.
Nice. Our pickets match the curvature of the gate, and it's gonna look brand new when we're all done with it. Like it never even happened. All right, now we're gonna get everything in position and get ready to weld. By measuring the picket spacing somewhere else on the gate, I was able to come up with the correct picket spacing to use for our new pickets. Now I'm gonna tag my brother in so that he can start welding. The first thing he's gonna do is hook up the ground cable. Can't forget the filler rod. Dang, Justin, nice welds, bro. All right, he's tagging me back in. All right, the bottom is all welded. Looks pretty good. Now we're gonna weld on one side on the bottom C channel all the way down, and then we're gonna reverse sides and come up the other direction. Great, on to the next step. Now we're gonna cut the old hardware off the pinch bracket.
We're gonna throw this away so it doesn't end up in somebody's tire. You're gonna get roasted about the device not being attached to your truck.
I was just thinking that. Make sure that if you guys have a vise on your work trucks, you don't attach it to anything. It makes things a lot more fun and entertaining.
Looks good to me.
It looks like barely any better.
Well, as usual, we have to make a trip to the hardware store because we do not have the correct hardware. And we are going to have to get it.
We don't have what we need. Sounds typical.
One eternity later.
All right, we're back with the hardware we need.
I think it's 7/16. What's your guess?
I have no clue.
Is it 7/16? It is 7/16. Good. I'm looking for sponsors. Milwaukee. So we're gonna leave these right here unpainted because we have to still order the rings. And so we don't want to paint this and then have to take off the paint later on when we come back to re-weld the rings in. So for now, we're just gonna leave them unpainted. Okay, I'm putting the final touches on the gate, and now we can make this gate operational for the community again so that they'll be safe and secure. Okay, Justin, I'm gonna turn the truck around and I'll meet you out front. Oh no, we left it in drive. Oh man. We gotta do all that again? All right, I guess I'll unpack the welder.